soccer in America. If you can make money by developing youth in your own academy in America and get paid for transfer fees and all that like it's done in the rest of the world, that would change U.S. soccer. Because then it wouldn't be about pay to play, because you know what everyone do? They would go to the inner cities and they would start developing those kids, and then they know, and bad as this sounds, they would they would organize selling of these players, and then they would transfer. You imagine LeBron James fell in love with soccer because some academy, because they know they're going to make, oh my word. If athletes were converted to soccer in America and played, they would take over the world. We have the best athletes in the world are in America. They're just not in soccer. I even said this: the second and third tier athlete, when you're talking about football. So in football, at Phoenix College, our junior college program, there's a difference between looking at a junior college team and a Division I NCAA. There's a difference. There's super athlete, and then there's athlete. The second and third tier athlete in football, the ones that will not, they might go University D1, but won't go NFL. Those athletes, if they played soccer, would take over soccer because U.S. doesn't produce that many athletes. There's not enough of them. That's why I chose soccer. I was smart. I was extremely fast. I was athletic. I was top 10 in Arizona in the 400-meter race. Top 10 in the 100-meter. I was a track star in my little world, and I'm talking 5A, the highest level that we had. But I wasn't fast enough to compete I couldn't do the next jump. So I was probably a second or third tier athlete. A third tier athlete to go NFL. I ran a 4.38 40 to give you guys an idea how fast I was. But in soccer, I was the fastest. And that's why I chose that sport. That's all you need to do in soccer. If you got the second and third tier athlete and moved them on, they would take over the world. We would do very well. But that requires payment. It's a different kind of pay to play. In 2016, when Weston McKennie signed his first professional contract with the Bundesliga, side Schalke 04, the move was celebrated in just about every corner of the U.S. except for Dallas and MLS headquarters in New York. McKennie had been in the youth system of FC Dallas for 7 years. As such, FCD did plenty to prepare McKennie for the professional ranks. And yet, when McKennie signed with the Royal Blues, what did the FC Dallas get for all its hard work? Not a cent. Even though FIFA regulations on the status and transfers of players, RSTP, said FCD should have received around $250,000. That's a game changer, ladies and gentlemen, but you can't do it because in America, you have a problem, and it's called child labor. And that's kind of in lies our problem. The reason why FCD was left empty-handed was that for decades, the U.S. Soccer Federation, for a variety of reasons, opted not to adhere to the RSTP. When MLS was getting players from the college ranks or on free transfers from abroad, this didn't matter so much. But now that MLS was investing tens of millions of dollars every year in youth academies, it either wanted to see something in return for its investment or scare off foreign clubs from poaching their youth players and keep said prospects for themselves, which makes sense because we have Barcelona here, the Barcelona Academy, the real Barcelona Academy, not the fake Barcelona Academy, which it was so funny. So in Arizona, we have a ton of clubs here, and one club was called Barcelona. They're like, oh, we're affiliated with Barcelona. They weren't. And then the real Barcelona Academy came into Casa Grande, took over what Real Salt Lake left, and identified, hey, why is there other Barcelonas here? We're the only Barcelona. And, they had to get rid of it right away. So, so many cheaters in the world. compromising us all using fake names or real names that don't belong to them. So we go on, and it says, so in April of 2019, MLS announced that it would begin adhering to RSTP. In practical terms, the announcement meant that MLS teams would be compensated for player development costs when an academy product signed their first pro contract with a foreign club, which would trigger what is called in FIFA parlance a payment of training compensation. It was a gift that could hypothetically keep on giving. If an MLS developed player was ever transferred to a team in a different country, MLS and the team that developed the player could recoup as much as 5% of the transfer fee, called a solidarity payment. It would also pay foreign clubs such fees for incoming transfers. It would be akin to a Japanese baseball team reimbursement the New York Yankees for player development costs if a Yankees farmhand decided to sign with the Japanese team instead of going to the major leagues. The Japanese team would also have to pay their players' youth teams for such costs as well. The announcement sparked vision of MLS teams not only hanging on to more of their academy products, but potentially recouping tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars if the players moved elsewhere. And this makes a lot of sense why the MLS academies are everywhere now. And MLS focus on it. And Real Salt Lake, by the way, which might become Arizona, RSL is the biggest youth soccer organization in Arizona, as far as a soccer club. Why? They know what's coming. The more kids that play under their umbrella, the more return they'll get if one of those tens of thousands of players they're under their umbrella make it anywhere. And they will own the rights to it. So they are trying to get all their territories locked down. And that's making it like the Wild Wild West. But that explains why the MLS Academy is doing what they're doing. They're all like, oh, we're going to create this Super League for all you people. No, they want control. Because you're playing under their academy, they get that control. Does that mean if you're not an MLS Academy player, but you're in the Academy League, like Del Sol is in the MLS Academy. If one of those players makes it to the MLS, but was developed by SC Del Sol for 10 years or whatever, who gets the money? The MLS Academy League? Or does the individual club? That's another fight down the road, I'm sure. There was also an MLS decision would pave the way for non-MLS clubs throughout the country, be they in the USL or just local clubs, to obtain their FIFA-mandated fees as well if players that developed hit it big. Oh, I guess that answers our question. In a country where the pay-to-play system, whereby parents are footing a chunk of the club's expenses, is still king, a couple of $100,000 could easily ease the financial burden on some clubs and families. The decision has had some positive impact. MLS has indeed been able to retain more of its youth players, at least the ones they want. But what has ensued is largely a two-tier system in the United States that operates outside of the MLS, still struggle to be compensated. Nothing has changed for us, said Jerome De Bouton, a former MLS executive and currently the chairman of Youth Club Rush Soccer. There's been no concrete materialization of MLS decision. So it hasn't. And Rush is the largest soccer club in the United States. I believe so. With they got clubs everywhere. So they're definitely hoping, based on the power numbers, that one of them make it. And it's a 6-figure deal and 7-figure deal and the 6-figure deal for the Rush. But everyone's hoping for that superstar, and it could happen. As for why it took so long for the MLS to take part in the RSTP, that is down largely to the stance of the U.S. Soccer Federation. Previously, the USSF prohibited U.S.-based teams from collecting or paying such fees. Among the reasons cited, which have shifted over time, was fear that adherence to RSTP would trigger antitrust lawsuits due to the restraint of trade or violate child labor laws, which that's what we discussed earlier. The USSF also replied on some arcane legal rules to avoid taking part in the RSTP. Back in 1997, during a court case involving MLS and MLS Players Association, the two sides agreed that MLS wouldn't charge a transfer fee for out-of-contract players. The USSF agreed to the same, yet feared that paying youth clubs a fee when a player signs their first pro contract would violate the agreement. But after watching several of its academy products, most notably McKinney, leaving for nothing due to the fact that they were not contracted with the MLS club, the attitude in league circles evolved. If the youth players was going to sign elsewhere, MLS wanted to capture the fees to which FIFA said it was entitled. The thinking of the USSF changed as well following the stakeholders meeting in 2015 that included MLS and the MLSPA. The USSF opted to take an official neutral stance on the issue instead of openly opposing it. So what's transpired since MLS announcement 16 months ago? According to Demetrius, MLS EVP of Player Development and Competition, only a handful of transfers of the MLS players have triggered a payment of training compensation or solidarity payments. Demetrius declined to say how much money MLS teams have recouped or which deals were involved, but he said it's less than $1 million in total, but that'll change over time, I'm sure. That number doesn't include DC United recent transfer of midfielder Chris Durkin to the Belgian side to St. Truden for reportedly $1.1 million. This, in case the mandated 5% amounts to as much as $55,000 was baked into the fee for Durkin, but he added that DC United technically was eligible for the payment. That because MLS decided that only those MLS academies that don't charge players a fee in order to play can receive training compensation or solidarity payments. DC United is one of those that still charge a fee. Minnesota United, which recently revamped its academy structure, is the other. And that's one thing I do like about some of the academies, that if you make the first team, it's free. That makes sense to me because that's a good thing, because they believe in you. They believe you have the opportunity, and that's the way it should be. We put RSTP adherences into place actually to make sure that they were retaining the players that they wanted, he said. The reason why you haven't seen that many examples of it, because we've been doing a really good job retaining our talent. Our focus isn't to just go out and get money. Our focus is to retain the talent that we think will be successful in MLS now. That's not true. I know, well, I guess Barcelona's different. So I know Barcelona, they're going to move you. Get you Europe or whatever. They want to move you, sell you right away. It is about money, like most businesses. He added, I expected that the number of deals would go up. As we continue to develop more and more talent, there will be instances where those players will gather more and more attention globally. The USSF neutral stance is driven by the fact that agents and the MLS Players Association are generally opposed to the RSTP. The thinking being that it creates an additional tax on transfer that takes money out of the player's pocket. The MLSPA strongly supports youth development, but we do not believe that pricing the burden solely on players to fund it is a sensible approach. The MLSPA said back when MLS announced it would follow the RSTP. A levy on the professional clubs and the federation that is unrelated to individual player transaction would spread that burden across the industry, which would be far better approach to funding the development. I like it. Whether the player gets less, I'm not concerned about that right now. I'm concerned about the number of talented players we're getting from this country. And we have talent. We just don't get them. And a lot of it has to do with you're not given an incentive to find them, because a lot of the players can't afford or refuse to pay that kind of money to play in this system that we currently have, which is a joke. And we keep repeating the same problems of the joke. Scrolling down, while MLS clubs have had success with RSTP, non-MLS youth clubs are still struggling for training compensation and solidarity payments. Del Sol. You better be careful. All you jumping with MLS, they're going to take your money. While the money involved might not seem like a lot in the context of player fees, it can be sustained these clubs by covering vital operation costs or increase availability of scholarships, which is important. When Durkin's transfer was finalized earlier in the year, one of the youth clubs he played for, the Richmond Kickers Youth Club, didn't get a cut of the fee estimated to be in the $10,000 to $20,000 range. Reached by telephone, the Kickers executive director, Leigh Kalishaw, said the club would look into trying to get reimbursement, but the USSF neutrality means that the federation will merely pass along requests to FIFA for a club to get paid rather than be an advocate for a youth club. So what happens is FIFA actually distributes, and they're not going to spend too much time trying to figure things out. I mean, when Americans were coming up, I remember it was a university that was contacted over a transfer and fee, and they couldn't take it, and it got me thinking at the junior college, I would take it. And if I have one player in the Bundesliga right now, and if he gets a first division contract, I'm calling because he was 1 year with me. I'm taking that money. Sakai Iohara, tear it up, my friend. This is a long, well-written article. And by the way, this is the first time I'm reading it. And I'm done. I'm tired. So I'm going to end this crazy podcast that I'm on. And in hopes that you'll join me again and again for the content I give you. And I apologize to Rebecca if I offended you or anyone for that matter. My job isn't to offend. My job is just give my flipping opinion. That's it. And allow our country to exist with the freedom to be able to have conversation. Oh, the good news is I don't have money. I'm a nobody. So usually I don't attack people for being nobodies. But you never know. I will see you guys tomorrow on episode 562. Have a great day, guys. See ya. I hope you enjoyed that clip. If you enjoyed it, like it, share it, and most importantly, subscribe to my channel. If you do that, you'll receive the information needed to offset the many lies U.S. Soccer provides, whether it's with club soccer or MLS Next and every academy showcase, all that stuff. I'll give you the information that you're needing to know that's opposite what you're being told. And then you can make an informed decision. If you like that, if you like the truth, you like to listen from someone that's not selling you a product, because I'm not selling you anything. I'm just giving you information. I'm your guy. Subscribe today.